Welcome back to Roddy's Rides. Last episode, what you guys saw was first we installed our VMP air-to-water intercooler, then we installed our water pump for the intercooler, then we actually started trimming out a little piece of this front windshield cowl just so we could start fitting the supercharger. And in today's episode, looks like we're going to do maybe a little bit more trimming, a little bit more hitting with the hammer, a little gentle persuasion, and then there's a little lip right down here on the bottom of the block that I believe I need to shave, and that should be almost all of the mounting points for the supercharger. So the supercharger should be good to fully mount. Everything else is just like buttoning up the coolant, running the hoses. I don't have the intercooler in here just yet, just because I wanted to test fit everything. So we're getting there. Let's get cranking. So I don't know how well you can see that, a little dirty, but I'm going to hit it with some brake clean. And also Kirk at the dyno recommended going a little bit lower on the gap range for the spark plugs. So I had them at 32, I'm going to drop them down to 30, and then I'm going to do that for all the spark plugs. So I cleaned it off now, it looks a lot better. There's still some gunk on it, but this is just a nice little cleanup. This is also now gapped to 30 instead of 32. So I'm going to put these back in. I'm going to do the rest, or the other 5. I almost said 6, so I'm going to knock that out. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a razor blade and some Goo Gone and just try to get all this old RTV off this, just because I want to smooth this possible surface. And also the reason why I'm using a razor blade is because I could probably use Scotch-Brite, but I'm worried about if this plate was machined and it's all to like a certain thou, I don't want to potentially warp it or give myself any more reasons to yank the supercharger off again. So I'm just going to use a razor blade and try my best just to get what material's left on the plate. So let's knock that out. So here's the aftermath. I scuffed it up a little bit, and honestly it leaves little marks. And I also found out that I don't think this was 100% flattened. So I think what I might do, the smartest thing to do would be taking this to a motor shop or a machine shop where they either have a lathe or a mill, and then just make sure that this is 100% flat on each side. But I think I'm not going to be upgrading my pulley just yet, so I'm just going to be running this, and I think I'm going to run a shit ton of RTV and make sure that it all stays together. I don't think with running 8 pounds of boost it'll start to lift, so I think that would be okay for now. But in the future, I think I'm going to buy a bigger gasket. I'll cut it out and do gaskets for all the parts, or even maybe just try to engineer my own intercooler spacing so I have a lot more room to work with, and also I can design around these problems. So I would be really fascinated to be able to do something like that. So maybe that will be a goal for the summer. So earlier in the video, I did show you guys, or maybe it was last video, I don't remember, but I did over tighten this, and when this got hot, it started warping up the plastic. So this did cave in a little bit, but I'm about to take the heat gun, try to just warm it up and massage it back into the stock place. I'm gonna try to hit it from this way, so maybe the plastic will expand and go back to being flat, which I know it's not gonna be perfect, but B-spec or Ruddy Ride spec, we'll get it figured out. So this actually ended up working out pretty well. So I am going to be removing this cold air, or not this cold air, but my sound tube, because Auto Mafia is saying that this is unregulated airflow going into the motor, which is basically like, why would you have map sensor? Pretty much this could be giving us false readings and could making the car run worse. And with this being a like custom kit, I want everything going right for me, and so I'm not potentially creating more issues for myself, if that makes sense. I'm actually really glad that this, I mean, it's not 100% perfect, right? You can still see a little wave, but that came out a lot better than I thought. And I will be buying a cap for this, and then eventually I'll buy a new one of these sound tubes, just because balling on a budget. So I believe today is day 4 or day 5. Either way, it's not the day that I'm starting it. Last things I gotta put together is I gotta plug in one wire, which that won't be hard, that's 5 minutes. And that connects to the intercooler and the water pump. And the next thing I gotta do is run coolant lines. That won't be that difficult. I already have them all cut to size because I'm buying used parts. I gotta put on the belt, then I gotta fill up with coolant. And then, so the thing that I'll probably end up doing tomorrow first is I'm gonna take a test and I'm gonna drill into a spare scrap piece of aluminum that I have and rethread it, because the bottom supercharger plate for the intercooler doesn't seem like the bolts that we used are threading into it, but it could be boogered, it could have some RTV in it, we don't know. So we're going to take it slow and take our time to make sure everything's right. Hopefully that'll all pan out and we'll just drill, put in the new bolts, and then I could use the same bolts, which will be good. So now that we got it all tapped, now here comes for the next test. This is the supercharger bolt that I was originally using. Let's see if this bolt threads all the way in. Right now it's looking good. Long story short, it fits. We'll be doing it tomorrow. What we're doing now is, when I was test fitting the supercharger on top of the plates, I found out that we actually have to run this plate and my older plate to make it all work. And so that would be the easy solution, but the problem is whatever, if you ended up buying the hood that we bought, luckily there's a gentleman that's already been through all this and kind of troubleshooted a lot of it, so shout out to you, Ghost. I already have my hood here, but I haven't showed you guys which hood it is, so if you go check out his stuff and follow his Instagram, you'll know what hood I bought, so go check out his stuff. I think I'm going to run one plate. I'm going to retap these holes for my original supercharger bolts, and then right over here I'm going to lop off a little bit, and I'm hoping the supercharger will just be able to snug straight to this plate, and then hopefully I wouldn't have to cut the hood. We're just cutting out about like a 1/4 inch in and then just a little bit down, because the supercharger has a little like ramp that is just extra support for one of the bottom bolts. So we're hoping by just clearing this out a little bit, it should fit better. Fingers crossed. Let's see how close this comes. We just, here actually, show them off the little, what we've done so far. Oh, clean little Dremel cut. So our new gasket design that we're gonna have to trim down a little bit. And then notches up here. So it's almost there. We almost could have done it perfect the first time. And you can see the light coming through, so that means it's still rubbing on something. So we're gonna do one more clearance pass and just make it snug all the way around, so there's no false hope of it actually sealing and not sealing, if that makes sense. Next little target, this little lump, this lovely lady lump. Now just color inside the lines, play nice, and this all should work, hopefully. This is Roddy in the future. I forgot to film an outro. To be 100% honest with you, we might be missing footage, or I forgot to record it. I just didn't go back and look at it on my laptop. So if I find it, it will be inserted somewhere before this, but this is how I'm gonna wrap up the video. So drop a like down below, help us out. We're almost at 400 subs, or 400, we're at 421 last time I checked. Just help us get to 500. Thank you y'all. Roddy's Rides, out of here.